You think more people are watching us right now or the debate?
They're eating the dogs. Derek, they're eating the dogs. They're eating our pets. They're eating the dogs.
I heard that was a line that's going on tonight.
Yeah.
Are they at least beautiful dogs?
I hope so.
Beautiful dogs.
I don't know how. I don't
I
even
like a
like.
dog.
They asked him like, "What's your plan? Do you regret anything from January 6th?" David, they're eating the dogs. David, they're eating the pets. They're eating the cats.
I don't even know what the hell that means.
Well, it's because like, look, man, we're not gonna get into a political thing here, but it feels
Or
like
not?
well, no, before the commercial break, it felt like with every answer, he was somehow making it about immigration and spouting the conspiracy theories around immigrants that come to this country. And one of them was they're eating the dogs.
All right.
It's like
Well,
it's what I imagined when I saw that news a few weeks ago that a certain Costco somewhere ran out of hot dogs, and I could just picture one guy who went there specifically for the $1.99 hot dog and soda, just pissed off leaving the Costco. They're eating the dogs. They're eating all the dogs.
who the hell goes to Costco just for hot dogs?
Everybody?
Well, that's like going to IKEA just for the meatballs.
No. Wait, hang on. You really don't know the idea of people going to Costco for lunch?
Well, I'm aware of like just to get like free samples and shit.
No, it's for the food court, dude.
I know. Well, I've heard of the food court at Costco. I haven't been in quite some time.
Oh.
The pizza's good. The hot dogs are good.
Oh, sir. Listen to me. All right. Listen to a guy who loves himself some dogs.
By the way, Ernie says I've done both, Derek. Well,
I'll tell you what. The $1.99 hot dog and a drink is or $1.50 even is the best food deal that you can get anywhere, especially in this economy. In this economy, for sure. And Ernie too. Oh, you're about to make my blood boil here. Costco pizza is meh. I know this is a place where all opinions are welcome, but that opinion sucks.
And there you go. Steven hating on Costco pizza.
No, that is Ernie too. I love the hot dogs and I love the Costco pizza.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Got to stop and get a slice.
So yeah, there you go. Those are our takes on tonight's debate and Costco pizza and hot dogs. The rest of this show will be about football. What's going on, everybody? Just your opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. We're going to talk all about Week 1 that went down in the NFL. God, it just feels good to have football back, doesn't it, Stephen?
It does. It really does. It feels good that there's actual games being played and we have stuff to talk about. And really, it seems there's a few things kind of left over from last year that are kind of being reheated this year and look like they will carry on into this season.
Reheated like a leftover Costco pizza.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
And there's a few teams that seem to have the sustainability of a Costco pizza, which has lived on for years. Whereas some teams, they look brand new and, don't really know what to expect there. But yeah, it's great to have football back.
They're ascending like a chairlift at a ski resort.
Yes, they are. Love the multi-view. Love that red zone was back. Loved everything. It was great. Great NFL Sunday.
I went to the athletic club, so I did not. I did not use the multi-view yet, but I am looking forward to that this weekend. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get familiar with my good friend Scott Hansen once again, who was calling out Tom Brady. Well, not really calling him out, but just like, come on, Tommy, I get more excited about that. So we'll definitely get to it all.
I mean, this is also coming from the guy who led off red zone going, and there might be a return on the kickoff.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I mean, yeah, he could be the guy to call out Tom Brady for that, but he gets overexcited for nothing sometimes. So I get it.
Yeah, but he has to. He has to because that's his job I mean, he lives for this. Like, I myself prefer Siciliano, but hey, we got Scott Hansen now, and I'm good with that. And of course, his famous meme or GIF, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is just him going, football. So he loves it, and I can't wait to watch this Sunday and get ready for the witching hour where wins become losses and losses become wins. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get right to it, Steven. Let's get right to the two teams that we talk about on this podcast the most, the Raiders and 49ers. And let's start with the Raiders because we have been neglecting the Raiders, I guess, a little bit.
Nah.
No, you don't want to?
No, I mean, I will absolutely want to talk about them, but I don't think we've been neglecting them. And the reason why we've been neglecting them through the preseason, I think, played out in week 1.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. There was a lot of shit going on this offseason about the 49ers. Pretty much nationally, everybody was attached to them, whether it was Ayuk or Trent Williams, and unfortunately, the Ricky Pearsall shooting. And we'll get to their game, and the Raiders, we'll see what they are this season. And it hasn't been as sexy. Devontae Adams, before the season started, made it abundantly clear that he is happy to be with Las Vegas. He wanted to let everybody know that in a press conference. And we'll see how long that lasts because he kind of was a little frustrated after the game. And I was watching the Jets last night. And it makes me wonder how much they'll need a second receiver. But let's focus on what happened last night with the Raiders. 2 days ago with the Raiders on Sunday. They lose to the LA Chargers 22-10. It was Harbaugh's debut. And the offense looked like it did in the preseason. Just not very smooth. I thought that Gardner Minshew was kind of doing his thing that I saw most of the preseason where he was just kind of freelancing a little bit, seeing what was open, running around. Nothing was fluid. Now, there was moments where he found an open Devontae Adams over the middle or Jacoby Myers. The best throw he had was not throwing intentionally to Jacoby Myers. He was trying to hit Trey Tucker, and it went over him, and Jacoby Myers undercut it and took the ball up the field. I do like the tight end combination of Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. But, yeah, the running game was not great, which led to Antonio Pierce kind of not being aggressive enough, in my opinion, on 4th and 1s. The defense, I think, is really good. Christian Wilkins blowing up Joe Alt on a play was impressive. Max Crosby making his presence known. I think the defense is going to be good. Now, our guy Alon Desai, who's going to fill in for you when you get married, was texting me after the game. He was like, dude, I got a bad feeling this is going to be like 2006, where we're going to have a great defense and the quarterback play is just going to be piss poor. And I was like, I don't think it's going to be 2006, but I do get the sense that it's going to be like a little bit like last year at the beginning, where Josh McDaniels was still head coach, where the Raiders, they might have to win games 17-13 or whatever happens, final score-wise. But, yeah, we saw the last preseason game, and Antonio Pierce was not confident going, out of that game. It was just like I was hoping both guys would take the job, and neither did. So they went with Gardner Minshew kind of by default because he was the more, established player, the veteran, and he made some unveteran-like plays. The weird fumble right before half. I mean, that's what killed the Raiders. They were leading in that game, and then Gardner Minshew just has a weird moment where he just drops the ball, and of course Khalil Mack picks it up.
Right.
And the Zamir White fumble, the missed field goal by Daniel Carlson, so many things led to the Raiders' loss. The bottom line is it was just turnovers, it was bad quarterback play, and not enough offense. And if there was one flaw of the defense, it was just letting J.K. Dobbins run all around the field. But I'm not too worried about the defense. It was mainly the offense for me.
Yeah, well, the defense got broken down, though. They got worn out. And that's because the offense didn't give the Chargers any reason to try and pass the ball. Justin Herbert is still working with wide receivers that would probably be benched or, on the roster bubble if they were on a lot of other teams. Like, seriously, their receiving core is not good. And I just think the defense got broken down. And God, I don't know, the one play that stuck out, like defensively, sure, not worried about it, but they do have some similar issues that they had, like having another linebacker outside of Robert Spillane. Divine Diablo had an okay matchup, but if you go and watch the touchdown in the red zone from the Chargers, Diablo just totally misread his blitz assignment and didn't go through a certain gap, and it just so happened to be the one that was wide open. And you could tell by the team's frustration after that play with Diablo specifically. And that was a problem with Diablo ever since he's been with the Raiders. It's not so much the fact that he can't cover, the fact that he's not quick sideline to sideline. It's that there's times in crucial situations where he's in the wrong position. So I am worried about that position group. I thought the secondary looked really good, though Jack Jones needs to contain his damn emotion at the end of the game, because you could tell that was all frustration. But it is the offense. It is the offense. That was something where you're just like, what the hell are the Raiders going to do here? I'm not going to lie, Derek. I try not to get big picture with things, but I'm watching this offense and I'm like, this does not seem like an offense that's going to be good for at least another 2 seasons, because they need a quarterback. Their offensive line wasn't good. I know Jackson Powers-Johnson was out and he should play a big role, but their offensive line didn't do much to impress. They didn't open up a lot for Zamir White. And even what they did, sometimes they got called back for a hold. Obviously, you mentioned the fumble in the second half. I didn't think they let Zamir White get his time to shine, but Alexander Mattison got more carries. So is Zamir White even the number 1 running back? I don't know. And the only successful play, the only play that actually seemed to operate smoothly, it definitely wasn't that one with Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker, or whoever the combination of receivers was there later in the game. The only smooth play they had was a play action that went to Brock Bowers wide open down the left seam or whatever, and went for a big gain. But other than that, I mean, the Raiders only had 1 play in the red zone, and that play ended up in a sack on Gardner Minshew. And I know Antonio Pierce is catching a lot of heat for his punting decision, especially on the opposite side. But I really think that is just a product of how bad this offense is. The fact that he would rather trust his defense in that situation instead of letting his offense gain over a yard. I think he's dodging the question when he says, no, I trust our defense. I wanted to punt in that situation. It's just, no, our offense wasn't getting anything going. That's why I decided to punt.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that more, about the 4th and 1 decision. Before we go any further, Stephen, we do have to acknowledge that you lost.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's back, ladies and gentlemen. The punishment of our picks. And
I need a vessel.
came out.
I forgot about this. I need a vessel. I'm going to go grab one. I'll be hearing you though.
All right, go grab your vessel. Yeah, if you're unfamiliar to the podcast, every year, me and Steven pick games, and the punishment is then that person has to do a little hot sauce challenge. Now, the first year we actually did wings, and sometimes it gets a little too expensive every week. So now,
seriously, we were paying I don't want to go pay $10 for 5 wings.
And believe me, I know how expensive it is to get wings. I had to pay for all the wings myself for when we did that thing on Tober to Copes. So now we just get the hot sauce that we have. We buy the hot sauce from Hot Ones, and Steven loses this week, so he's going to put it on a vessel. What is your vessel this week, Steven?
It's a carrot. It's a small baby carrot.
Stealing my ideas. Okay.
Well, it's all I got.
That's fine. So what hot sauce you going with? The usual?
The usual. This might be expired by now, but there's no expiration date. The Last Dab Apollo. Probably not good that it's been just left out on the counter. But you know what? Whatever. It's hot sauce.
That's how you store hot sauce. Okay, I'll send it to you. Before you eat, let me just finish up my things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, Khalil Mack has another great game against the Raiders. He finished with 1.5 sacks. He gets that fumble recovery right before half, and he was the one that tipped the pass that got intercepted by Poona Ford. He's still incredible. And I think that Chargers defense is improved. It's one game, but they are way more physical on both sides of the ball. They run the ball well. J.K. Dobbins did a good job. That offensive line really blocked for him as this game went on. And that defensive line, Bosa got a sack. Khalil Mack got a sack. Bud Dupree was wreaking havoc. I think that defense is way better than it was a year ago. Justin Herbert didn't have to do much. I mean, he's got Lab McConkey. He's finding guys on the flat. He didn't really have to chunk it deep. It's going to be a very balanced offense. I think they're way more physical than they were a year ago. But yeah, as far as the Raiders, I mean, I didn't think they were aggressive enough. You could make the argument on that first 4th and 1 that Antonio Pierce passed up that, okay, you still want to stay alive in the game, but I believe there was 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And the Raiders decided to punt and they were down 16-10. I think you got to be a little more aggressive there. And I know that Zamir White and other running backs were stuffed on 3rd-and-1s during the game, but I think I'd be a little more aggressive than that. I think with how little they scored in that game, I know that Antonio Pierce trusts his offense or trusts the defense of the Raiders, but immediately when he punted that ball, that's when they broke.
Yeah.
So I think to stay alive in that game, especially in the fourth quarter, I just think you got to be smarter about it. I would have gone for it on that 4th-and-1.
Right. I absolutely would have. And I think that it's going against everything that he talked about before the season. Just because I said he doesn't trust his offense doesn't mean he gets a pass on that. I think that was a huge, I'm going to go School of Rock here. I already think that's a demerit for Antonio Pierce for the first game of the season. Like you can't talk all this talk about how we're going to be the team that uses force, that uses power, that uses violence, physicality, all those different things. We're going to be that team, and then have your offense do something that's, and for lack of a better term, kind of cowardly on 4th down, just too scared to go for it when you're on the opposite end or on their side of the field and you only got 1 yard and some change to go. Like if you don't feel like your team, if your offense can do that, then I mean, what was all that talk for? Like, don't start pissing over the ledge and then tell me it's raining outside. Like, come on, man. So and the percentages backed it up too. Do you think, and I'm just spitballing here, but do you think that having a guy like Marvin Lewis or Tom Coughlin on the sideline, old school guys who aren't really a part of the modern NFL, I wonder if they had a hand in this? Because like, I really do, because not a lot of new age coaches would do that. More new age coaches would be aggressive, whereas the old school coaches are like, you trust your defense. That's what you do. You play it safe. It's just not that way anymore.
It depends. Like Kyle Shanahan last night was facing a 4th-and-1 with the game well in hand, but then he decided to kick the field goal. He put his offense out there to pretend like he was, doing a fake snap and everything, and then they went back and kicked the field goal. I think there's some coaches that just have the tendency of not being very aggressive on 4th-and-1 or whatever, 4th down situations, going for 2. Some coaches are. They see the analytics and things. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that Antonio Pierce probably relies on Marvin Lewis a lot from, coaching with him at Arizona State. Is Tom Coughlin's not part of the coaching staff, is he?
No, he's not like an assistant head coach like Marvin Lewis is. He's not out there wearing the headset or anything, but he's definitely been at camp.
No, I saw that picture at camp. He looked like the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Well, go ahead and finish your thoughts, Stephen, while you eat this carrot with hot sauce on it.
Okay. My other point is, Derek, I got my tongue right on that.
There you go. Feel the burn.
Let's get a little carrot ASMR.
Oh. Ooh. Sounded good. So, yeah, that point you were making, Stephen.
Yeah. Point. Ryan.
Yeah.
Are the Raiders good enough to pass up on that opportunity? Are the Raiders good enough to punt? Because to me, I know this isn't how they're thinking. They're thinking we can compete with all of the NFL. We're good enough to compete. But the reality is you're not. So why not take a chance? You got nothing to lose except some games. You're not going to make the playoffs. I know they're not going to have that mindset, but I'm of the mind, why not? Just go all out. Do stuff to try to win games. Do stuff that you wouldn't normally do, because trusting his defense, again, I'm going to say this, his defense got beat up. You mentioned Joe Alt, Christian Wilkins blowing up Joe Alt. Well, Joe Alt had Max Crosby's number in the second half. Max Crosby was not useless, but Max Crosby was effectively taken out of the game after about 7 minutes into the third quarter. That was the last pressure he had in that game. And Max Crosby is the guy who's meant to keep grinding you into submission until you surrender. But he couldn't do that against the Chargers because of Joe in the second half.
Why do you lose like the ability to use your tongue when you do this?
I don't, because it's I'm holding it like I'm isolating it from my mouth, because you touch it anywhere else and it gets really,
Yeah.
it like spreads.
All right. I'll help you out here. I'm with you. Now, I don't think they think the same way as you, where there's like they're not going to make the playoffs and everything.
I
They
don't. Again, I don't blame them. It's a fan's perspective, but it's like
I know. Yeah. I think then Antonio Pierce does need to think about that going forward, and that's the type of situation where you're on the road, you're only down by 6, all you need is 1 yard, and yeah, I agree with you, Steven. Like the mentality of can you afford to punt the ball away in that situation? I would say no, because your offense hasn't done much the whole game. Like let's be real. That one touchdown they scored, they were lucky to get it because Alexander Madison made a great play and broke away for a long touchdown catch.
right.
But the offense didn't move the ball enough where you think that they were going to get back into the red zone. That's the thing I worry about. Like I don't know if this offense is going to score many points at all this season. Now Devontae, he was a leading receiver. He was 459. Brock Bowers had a good first game. I think honestly the focal point of this offense needs to be the 2 tight end set of Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, because I just think that's the way they're going to develop plays a little bit. They need to build up the running game a little bit more play action fake. That's what Luke Getsy's offense was with the Chicago Bears. And yeah, I mean Devontae could be that guy, but it'll become very clear soon here if it makes sense for him to be on this football team. That's the reality of the situation. I think that Devontae is a great player, and the Raiders are lucky to have him. But at some point, it may not make much sense anymore, and that's something that the Raiders have to think about. But yeah, I think Antonio Pierce needs to be more aggressive as we go on in the season. I think that the time to strike was when they were facing that 4th and 1, and to go up in that game, to go up 17-16 and put some pressure on the Chargers. Because when you punt it and then J.K. Dobbins breaks that run and then Ladd McConkey scores that touchdown, go up 22-10, I think at that point the game's over. So, yeah, I didn't think Antonio Pierce was aggressive enough. I didn't think the running game was good enough. I didn't think that Minshew was good enough. Yeah, they have a lot to work on. They need to get Jackson Powers-Johnson back, and I don't even know what he's going to look like. He's still a rookie, and the Raiders are relying on him in their offense. So that'll be interesting to see. But, yeah, I think it's going to be tough, man. The Raiders, they play Baltimore this week, and Baltimore basically has a mini bye with playing on Thursday night. We'll see what happens against the Carolina Panthers. I'm expecting the Raiders to be 0-2 to start. Yeah, they have their work cut out for them this season, I would say. They're not going to be the worst team in football, but it's just kind of what we expected. I think the defense will carry them in certain games, and the offense will leave a lot to desired.
And you mentioned Davante Adams. I mean, do him a favor and trade him. Like, this dude's only under contract for 2 more years after this, and by the time that contract's expired, he's probably going to want a new one, and that's the time the Raiders are actually going to build. So I don't really see where there's the fit for Davante anymore. I understood it with Derek Carr, but you replaced him with Jimmy Garoppolo. That was the wrong move. And then you did not draft a quarterback in the first round like you were supposed. Like, I love Brock Bowers, but that tight end pick just, now that I look at the team and we see them play in week 1, like it just didn't make sense. Like, I get that you're going for the best player available, but should have been more aggressive in trading up. And now you're going to probably see Michael Penix start for the Falcons because Kirk Cousins looks very, very rusty coming off a torn Achilles at 36 years old. And I don't really see where Davante Adams fits when this team actually gets good.
Yeah, and who knows when that will be. But yeah, I mean, I think the Brock Bowers move makes sense for what happened, just to have the best player available.
Sure.
And what this offense is now. Now
Sure.
this offense should be ground and pound and play action fakes to the tight ends. And that's where you wonder where Davante fits in anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not treating it like this team is dog shit, because they're not. It's just kind of what we expected a little bit. And not to say that things can't get better. It's just like, you got Gardner Minshew as your quarterback. And yes, I know he almost got the Colts to the playoffs a year ago, but something about Shane Steichen that really helped him in that offense. I don't know. To be honest, I haven't seen Gardner Minshew play well in this Raiders offense yet, with the exception of maybe that Minnesota preseason game. And it's not like Gardner Minshew had the worst game ever yesterday or 2 days ago, but it just didn't look great.
No, he
And
didn't look comfortable at all. He didn't look
he
comfortable
didn't.
behind that offensive line, even when he was pressured. It just all looked very muddled, like just the entire offense. I don't like they had a goal, but then all of that just went out the window.
Yeah.
I really wasn't all that impressed. And again, if you're going to say Zamir White is the number one back, then treat him like the number one back. Don't bring the Vikings backup in and give him more carries than the guy that's supposedly your number one back. Give Zamir White the carries, man.
Yeah, I don't know what their game plan is running back wise. I think Alexander Madison is more of the pass catching guy. For a second there, when he caught the touchdown, I was like, is that Amir Abdullah? No, that's Alexander Madison. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to make of the running back situation. I think Zamir White's going to be the ground and pound guy, and Alexander Madison will be the outside runner. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what to make of this offense. Like I said, I think that they can focus on the tight ends. I think that's the best part of the offense. But I don't know if anything else is good besides Devontae and Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. It's just if they had a better quarterback situation, I would have more confidence in this offense. But it's not like Gardner Minshew has the most, the strongest arm out there, like to get to these guys. So I think he's perfect to throw it down in the flat and hit the tight ends or the running backs and the occasional play action fake, and Devontae or Jacoby Myers are open over the middle. But it became clear to me yesterday that, what I thought, the Chargers are better than the Raiders that quickly. Like they were the last team in this AFC West, and now it appears that I know people are saying like I'm not buying yet the Chargers for what they did 2 days ago with the Raiders. I think that it's the Raiders. I'm like, yeah, but the Raiders still have a good defense. So I think that the Chargers, yeah, they look like a better football team, and the Raiders, from where they were a year ago, they kind of just stayed stagnant and not really improve on the 8-9 record and the good morale of Antonio Pierce to get aggressive in the offseason. They didn't address the quarterback position. They made, a substantial move in Christian Wilkins, but that was about it. So from what I saw in week 1, they're about an 8 win or 9 win team. Not much of an improvement from what I saw a year ago.
Feels like they just had the idea that we're going to build around Max Crosby and we're going to have an elite defense, and they just forgot about the offense.
Yeah.
No, you know what? We'll be fine. We'll roll with Zamir White without Josh Jacobs. That's fine. Yeah, we'll keep Devontae Adams around, even though we're not going to get a starting caliber quarterback on our roster. Like, even those calling for Aiden O'Connell to come in, like I'm not expecting much more from Aiden O'Connell. Maybe
I'm not either.
Maybe less volatility. I don't think you're going to get any of those fumbles that Gardner Minshew had from the hands of Aiden O'Connell. But I still don't think Aiden O'Connell's like a perennial starter in this league, that he's gonna compete with the likes of that guy opposite him and Justin Herbert, or who they got coming up in Lamar Jackson, maybe Bryce Young, because Bryce Young does not look good.
No.
But I don't really know where their direction is or what their direction is. And really, it's not even just the offense, Derek. I'm watching that game and I'm just thinking in my head, this team is not going to be good for at least 2 to 3 years. Like, at least. And when I mean good.
Well, why do you say that? Because I can say yes, maybe this season, but who the hell knows what happens next offseason?
Because they don't have a quarterback. They're probably not going to get one in free agency. They're going to have to develop another rookie. And you're just in a similar position like the Chicago Bears, who have plenty of talent, who have plenty of pieces. And I think this year they could, I genuinely do think they could go 9-8, but it feels like that's the Raiders' ceiling for that year. And then hopefully 2 years down the line, they're better. But you also got to rely on this front office, and this front office, even this new regime, just hasn't made the right moves just yet, or haven't shown that they've made the right moves just yet.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that they won't be good anytime soon. I just think that this year they weren't as aggressive as they should have been. And I think Tom Telesco is kind of evaluating things more than, you know, trying to win, I guess. Well, I mean, they want to win, but I don't know. It's a very weird season. It feels like they just when they missed out on getting Michael Penix, they were like, all right, let's see what we have in Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, and that's where the season kind of lies right now.
Yeah.
And yeah, this offseason, they, for the people that wanted Dak Prescott, that's not happening. I mean, a bunch of crazy stories happened right before the games kicked off on Sunday morning, but Dak Prescott getting the richest contract in NFL history, I did not expect that to happen. I thought he would go into the season without a contract and then try to bank on how he played this season in free agency. But yeah, he's there for the foreseeable future. 4 years. He gets 231 guaranteed, 1 million more guaranteed than Deshaun Watson got. So he's getting 60 a year. Yeah, no, it might be a long season for the Raiders. I mean, you and I may get our hopes up every now and then when they have an impressive win that's more defensive oriented, but we'll see where it goes. That's all I really can say. I'm not very confident in this Raider team.
I didn't even mention the coach. Like, I was just talking about the roster. I didn't even mention the coach. I know it's just been one game, but this is really a prove it year for Antonio Pierce. And in the first test, I mean, he's got plenty of the season and can absolutely change the minds. But if you're going to consider that a test in week one, I'd call that effort like a C- at best. At best, because the defense played well, but ultimately your defense got beat down at the end of the game. And that's why J.K. Dobbins has the numbers that he put up. So, and Luke Getsy, at the end of the day, he was like the worst offensive coordinator in the league last year, and they still
according to
hired
Matt
him.
Kolsky.
What's that?
According to Matt Kolsky.
Yeah, and they still hired him, and they didn't really do much to. I mean, you got to work with what you got, and look no further than the defensive coordinator and Patrick Graham. But if they have the subpar roster that they put on paper, they should at least be able to get more than one trip to the red zone against the Chargers.
Yeah, but okay, are you in agreement with me that the Chargers look better than they did a year ago?
Sure, they did look a little quicker, but that's still like they're not world beaters. I think you're going to find next week that whichever team plays the Chargers, and I don't even know who it is. It's the Panthers. So that's
the Panthers.
So never mind. That defense is going to look really good.
Exactly.
Actually, damn, they don't really play a solid offense until the Chiefs. So you might see them look good for the first 3 weeks. And everyone's going to be saying this Chargers defense is for real. And then the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be hosting them, or excuse me, they're going to be at SoFi Stadium and they're going to go off, and then we'll really see what the Chargers defense is made of there.
Yeah, I think a little more highly of them than you do, but I mean, yeah, I'm not very confident in the Raiders. And as you said with Antonio Pierce, me and Alon were talking about in the offseason that maybe this is a prove it year for, Antonio Pierce, in the sense that everything was good for him last year when he would, change of pace. He, galvanizes the team. And now it's like, okay, we have expectations now. And with guys like Vrabel and Belichick, I don't think they'll go down Belichick's road, but Belichick out there, Ben Johnson with the Lions. Could there be upgrades at coach? Or maybe just the Raiders know that they need to, build up their team. So maybe they stick with Antonio Pierce. But we'll see how things go when it's not going well, when guys aren't smoking cigars in the locker room.
Right.
When things are tough, how is Antonio Pierce going to handle being head coach of this football team?
I mean, at the end of the day, the wins that they got last year once he took over were against the Daniel Jones New York Giants, the whoever the hell was starting against for the New York Jets. You got the one against the Chargers where the offense puts up 63 points, and then you got that win against the Chiefs where the offense was just non-existent, even though you beat the Chiefs. And that's kind of felt like what they've hung their hat on. Oh, and they beat the Broncos. Like, not a very impressive slate, except for the Patrick Mahomes one, obviously. Like, that's sure, that's a big game. I don't want to take that away. But, like, didn't really beat many good teams last year. And so, it's just not looking good, man. I'm not feeling confident at all.
Yep. I hear you on that one. All right. Now to go to the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a little surprising that Christian McCaffrey was inactive for this game. And I give kudos to you, sir, because I was kind of like poo-pooing the whole notion that Christian McCaffrey's significantly injured or even injured to begin with. It sounded like they were just being precautionary. But no, this thing's legit. This calf strain / Achilles injury is going to be a problem for Christian McCaffrey. And I don't know when he's coming back. I would be highly surprised if he plays this weekend against the Minnesota Vikings to have to fly and on a short week for him to play. But yeah, when Kyle Shanahan joined Adam Copeland on Friday, he asked him straight up, "Do you think he's playing?" And he kind of gave the answer of, "Yeah, we'll see." And every time you have an injury like that, it's kind of tough. But yeah, we expect him to be out there. And
you got to monitor it and stuff. And
yeah, you got to monitor and stuff.
When you have a Achilles and calf injury, you run on your legs because you run with your legs and stuff. So could get hurt and stuff.
Yeah,
Rick
Ross. A lot of stuff. But yeah, this could be a problem. And when the game kicked off, I was like, damn, I don't know how they're gonna look offensively tonight without McCaffrey. And then I forget that this is what Kyle Shanahan does. He and his father. What did Damon Bruce used to call it back in the day? Shenanigans or whatever he called it, where basically they find the best out of undervalued running backs. This is the same thing that we saw in Raheem Mostert or Tevin Coleman was a free agent, so I'm not gonna count him. But like when God, I mean, you remember Steven growing up as a Raider fan. Mike Shanahan found success against the Raiders with the likes of Orlandis Gary,
right.
Mike Anderson, Reuben Drones, just crazy running backs you never heard of before, undrafted guys, 6th-round picks. And that was the case with Jordan Mason last night. Jordan Mason was fantastic. He ran the ball hard. I heard today he was like a combination of Marshawn Lynch and Marion Barber. He looked like that last night. I mean, okay, that's a stretch. It was one game.
Let's ease up here on the Marshawn Lynch comps. All right, we don't need. It's one game. I know.
Bottom line is, I hear you. But yes, he's not. It's one game, but he was running hard like those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thoroughly impressed, and I was impressed with the offensive line. They held their own. Dominic Pooney in his debut was fantastic. And as far as Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, it was a part of me was just kind of like, I don't care like what happens with them. I'm just kind of grateful to see Aaron Rodgers play quarterback for the Jets finally. Because last year it was like, oh my God, what a letdown. 4 snaps in, we're done. Then last night, like, okay, we finally got a full game of this. And at times I was texting you, he looked great. He looked like old Aaron Rodgers where he stood back in the pocket and slung it. That throw he had to Garrett Wilson along the sideline was perfect. The touchdown throw and a free play, that's classic Aaron Rodgers. Well, he just throws the ball deep to Allen Lazard in the end zone. But let's be real, too. He did struggle, and he is less mobile than he used to be. But he was playing the 49ers defense. And in recent years, he has struggled always playing them. When he was on the Green Bay Packers and he is his normal self, he struggled against that team. I remember in 2019 where that Packer team was pretty good. They got shit stomped, like 37-8. And he has those struggles every now and then. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to really throw out Aaron Rodgers or even Kirk Cousins. I'll get to him a little later. I just think it was the first time that we saw the Jets as an offense with Aaron Rodgers. And it looked better than Zach Wilson, don't get me wrong, but they're still figuring things out. They didn't use Mike Williams at all because he's coming off an ACL and they don't want to rush things. They only used him in the red zone. And it made me think last night watching them, if Allen Lazard is their second most reliable wide receiver, then they're going to be desperate to get Devontae with how much is on the line this season with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas and even Aaron Rodgers. So,
well, Mike Williams should be the number 2, right? Like
he should be when he's healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. So they might have something there. He obviously didn't play last night. Look, man, as far as, I guess I'll just go off the Rodgers thing first. That touchdown drive where they get stopped on the first couple of downs and he's making checks at the line, audibling for whatever play. I love the way that Peyton and Eli and Bill Belichick were breaking it down. If anyone watched that, like seriously, that is tremendous. They got to get the delay issues figured out, but that is just tremendous football nerd stuff. So if anyone likes nerding out on football, that is going to be the broadcast to watch. Though if you're a 49er fan, I don't blame you if you didn't watch it, because it is hard to kind of watch the game in a traditional sense where you hear the crowd and you're just getting the play-by-play guy who's giving you the quick updates. There's a lot of things they talk over and they don't really address on that broadcast, but during that drive, they're talking about how Rodgers is checking out of plays and moving the linebackers out of the middle of the field so he could open things up for Garrett Wilson. And you saw the confidence that he had. You're like, oh, this could really turn into a game. But something flipped with the 49ers defense. They were just terrific in stopping the run. Breece Hall couldn't do anything. That offensive line was getting worked. Fred Warner was an absolute machine out there. I didn't really see like a ton from the safeties. I'd have to go back and watch more closely. And then when Rodgers did decide to pass, I mean, Diamador Lenore he totally tested him. I mean, we saw that graphic that popped up today from Next Gen Stats. Shout out to Kyle Madsen who posted it, but all of Aaron Rodgers' throws went on the opposite of where Charvarius Ward was. He didn't even throw at Mooney Ward a single time. And Diamador Lenore, he lived up to it. And Isaac Yadam, some random cornerback who they found as a free agent, he got worked on a little bit, but he came up with a key pass block late in the game when it seemed like the Jets still had a chance. So I thought the defense was just awesome. The defensive line definitely outplayed how I thought they were going to play. Like I thought the Jets defensive line was much better than they are, but they were the ones who dominated that game. So that's really where it started. And it was just a game that was won in the trenches, man. I mean, Jordan Mason, I do give him all the credit. I'm not going to compare him to Marshawn just yet, though the dreads do help. I know I don't want to say this as if like I'm smarter than people and all this sort of stuff,
but you will.
But I will. It did feel like Jordan Mason had this in him. Like when you watched him run, when you see that guy up close at training camp, you're like, oh, that guy is massive for a running back. He almost looked like a tight end, even though he's like 5'11", but he is a built guy. And whenever he got the ball, even whenever he was just preseason games, this dude was a man on a mission. And what I saw from the Niners in this one was Kyle Shanahan turn back the clock. I saw him turn the offense into the pre-Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey offense, where we're just going to run outside zone in between the tackles. George Kittle said it after the game. They ran the same play, and they were back to that 49ers offense where it's not like they're disguising so many things that the defense doesn't know what's coming. No, the defense did know what was coming. They just couldn't stop it because the offensive line was awesome. A guy who, like, get to know this name. I decided to isolate his quote unquote film. I just searched it up and watched the tape, the film videos. I watched videos of this, Derek. I don't want to make it sound like I'm sitting there in the headquarters and using like a remote, leaning back in a recliner chair, like flicking through.
For the last 2 hours, I was watching 48 hours of film nonstop.
I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm Greg Cosell, but like NFL Pro, this new thing that NFL Plus is rolling out, makes it so easy to watch film. And there's number 82. I noticed last night he lined up at fullback and then he made the block. And I thought to myself last night, who the hell is that? And then I watched more of it this morning. Some random tight end that they signed from the Falcons named Eric Saubert. And I heard your guy.
Steven.
What?
He's not some random guy.
Yes, he is.
Nah, he's a solid player, but yeah, I hear you.
Who's it? Why? What were you going to say? He's not some random guy.
No, I was just giving you shit. It was like, he's. I've heard of him.
Yeah.
And by the way, the way you're making it sound with Jordan Mason, you sound like my dad. It's like, they're better. They could be better without McCaffrey there, John.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying they went back to the Jimmy
okay?
Garoppolo type offense where they were really just running outside zone, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But Eric Saubert, though, I was just really impressed. And I'm not here to say that they got like a steal through free agency, but if you were looking for anyone to fill in for Ross Dwelly, well, no, he's not going to catch many passes for you. He's super slow whenever it comes to running routes. But this guy, Eric Saubert, knows how to block. He is the quintessential blocking tight end. And whenever they went out there with either 12 or 22 personnel, it was to great success. And Saubert was leading the way. I don't know how many plays he was out there for. I think it was at least for it was mostly for run plays. Like I think any team that's watching tape, like the Vikings, for example, I think they're gonna pick out number 82 and say when he's on the field, it's probably gonna be a run. Because I think they only ran like one play where it was a pass with him in. But I think like all but two, and he was in there for a solid like 12 or 13 rushes. I think all but two of them, they went for positive yardage. And it was in part because Eric Saubert was making the block. Gets to the second level. He's finding guys. He's not necessarily doing crack blocks, but it's just, I don't know. I was just really impressed with him and this random guy that they found off of practice squads from the past few years.
Yeah, man, I was going to say the exact same thing where I think the last night, the offense was reminiscent of 2019. And I can think of games against the Cleveland Browns or the Carolina Panthers or even the NFC Championship game where Raheem Mostert scored 4 touchdowns. It was just like simplistic running that made them the most explosive offense in football. And it wasn't simplistic. I don't want to make it sound like that, but just straight up Jimmy Garoppolo handing off to Raheem Mostert or Tevin Coleman or Matt Breida. And last night that was, Brock Purdy handing it off to Jordan Mason 28 times. That is the most carries that any Niners running back has had in the Kyle Shanahan era, which is surprising when you consider that Christian McCaffrey has been the face there for the last few years now.
And fittingly, Frank Gore was the last one to carry that many. That was in 2011, and just so happened that his Hall of Fame induction was this week.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we know that Kyle is capable of doing that. So it was kind of an old school flashback game pre-McCaffrey, but we all can agree they're going to need McCaffrey in order for them to be a Super Bowl team. That's going to be the difference in this thing.
Sure.
But I mean, the opening possession, they punted, and then after that, the offense took control of the game. They did not punt after that. They scored on 8 straight possessions. And yes, there were 6 field goals, but also that's a positive in itself. So many people question Jake Moody as a 3rd-round pick, and the guy is turning into one of the more reliable kickers in all of football. He's good for 6 field goals. He's good from 50. You can argue about the clutch situationship, but let's be real. He kicked 2 clutch field goals in the Super Bowl. So I think this guy's proven himself. And as far as Brock Purdy, he had a great game. He started off a little slow, but then he was magnificent after that. That should have been a touchdown pass from him to Ayuk. And I think that's the only criticism I have of the game is Ayuk looked rusty. And that was bound to happen. Trent Williams was great, but Ayuk was rusty.
Sure.
And that's expected with how things went this offseason. But people are going to say, like, oh, you're paying this guy $30 million a year and he gets 2 for, what did he finish with? 2 for 8 yards or whatever it was. It might have been more than that, but actually I'm thinking of Amon-Ra St. Brown's stat line, but he got 2 catches. Yeah. And I thought it was very entertaining. You texted me when it happened. Peyton Manning's reaction on the Manning cast. He went off on Ayuk, off on him, basically calling him out for, not going to training camp. He said, get those contracts done early. That's why you get to camp. You're running around on some high school field with a 40-year-old quarterback throwing you passes when you should be with your quarterback. And I get all that.
Can we play it?
Sure. When do you have it ready?
Oh, of course.
Okay. Well, yeah. Here's Peyton Manning last night on the Manning cast when Ayuk dropped the touchdown.
Jennings. Oh, I want to throw. Ayuk, he's a little rusty, Pate. He's missed all training camp. Hey, get signed, get in training camp. There's a reason for training camp. You need it. We need the rest.
Oh.
Get those contracts done earlier so we can get in training camp. We don't drop balls on opening night.
Right. It's probably one thing catching passes, running routes. All of a sudden you're laying out for a pass, full speed, diving. That's why, those happen in camp. You make those, you practice those. That's just a little rusty right there.
You're still catching balls at a high school field from some quarterback that's 45 years old, my age. You're not catching balls from your quarterback. Get signed, get in camp, and we don't drop the ball.
Yep.
There is nothing more entertaining in all of sports media, in my opinion, than seeing a pissed off Peyton Manning. When it comes to anything he sees on the football field, like my favorite thing is when a guest is on the Manning cast and they're plugging some shit, and Manning is like, you see him just with his arms folded in the back of his head, like, oh God, that was a terrible pass. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That last night was hilarious, and I completely understand what he's talking about. But that is Peyton Manning, the privileged quarterback.
Right.
He has accumulated $240 million in his career. He's never had to hold out. And I don't remember ever Marvin Harrison or Reggie Wayne having to hold out. But if Peyton Manning ever got involved in that shit, he should learn to shut up. Like, I remember when Brett Favre talked about Javon Walker. Javon Walker holding out in training camp one year, and people were like, yeah, good for Favre to tell his wide receiver to get his ass to training camp. And I think a lot of people in football were like, who is he to say anything? That's not his situation. So I understand what Peyton Manning is saying, and that's the frustration of many fans, but also that's not your opinion to be had. Like,
why not?
Because he's not understanding. He's thinking it from a quarterback perspective. He's thinking it from a Brock Purdy perspective. He's not thinking it from Ayuk himself trying to get paid. I know, like in a perfect world, those contracts would be done already, but that's not how it was done.
But it was to Ayuk's fault, and he admitted that. It wasn't because the Niners weren't willing to pay it. So I think had he handled it a little differently, had Ayuk, maybe he would have given him a little more slack. But at the end of the day, Ayuk should have caught the ball. Ayuk should have caught that ball.
You're absolutely right. Yes,
and who cares? Who cares that he's getting paid $30 million? Like I heard this a lot yesterday. If you're going to demand top dollar, then I expect these catches to be made by Ayuk. Sure, yeah, but at least it's happening now. When you just stomped the Jets, this is the luxury the 49ers have. Okay, they can have all this stuff go wrong, yet everything will go right for them because they are a damn good roster.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so good.
Can you imagine if that was with the game on the line? It was fourth down. He dropped that ball. How much, God, sports talk radio and fans would be off the hook today.
Yeah, but there's probably some already that are off the hook. But you know what? He's probably going to come back and have a bunch of catches against the Jets. He'll correct things that need to be corrected, getting into game shape. Or, against the Vikings. And he'll correct what needs to be corrected. Like, I don't think there's anything to worry about that. I loved that from Peyton, though. But I do think that what you're saying when he shows, like, when he's visibly disgusted at certain plays, especially with, like, play calling towards the end of halves, especially the second half, it's fantastic to watch. But God, yeah. I think one of my my other favorite things about the Manning cast is just whenever, and they've been doing this since the start, but when they lean into having another football guest on, and they will just play old videos of Peyton playing against that team. Same thing with Eli. But like yesterday, I think it was, I think Brock Purdy pulled off that run. It was that run to get a first down. I forgot which quarter it was, and I think it was in the first half. And then when they came back from break, they played the clip of Peyton as a Colt running against the New England Patriots when Belichick was the head coach. And then like you could just see Peyton looking at the screen. Yeah, speed. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, look at that. And it's like just so entertaining to watch Peyton kind of be self-deprecating about his ability to run the football.
Yeah, like the best moment last night from what I saw. So I had both broadcasts going. I had the main broadcast on one TV watching Buck and Aikman, and one of the best lines of that broadcast last night was they showed the social media video of Ayuk catching passes in his backyard with the ball going in between two trees. And Aikman's like, well, that's all well and good, but what's the point of that? That's not going to make you a better wide receiver, just catching passes in the backyard. Like, I'm sure that's just a good viral video. And then Aikman goes, it sure is. It sure is, Troy. And so, yeah, that was fun to watch the broadcast because I think Buck and Aikman are an upgrade over Steve Levy. But I had the Manning cast on the other TV, and you could see replays come back because that one's on a little delay. But I had it on mute, and I saw Peyton Manning get up from the couch and start breaking shit down. And all you see is just Bill Belichick with a gigantic smile on his face. Not showing any teeth, but just a huge grin on his face where he is just loving this guy breaking down football. I don't know if we're going to see Belichick and Brady on TV together, but man, does Belichick love to hear Peyton Manning break it down. And yeah, I'll be tuning into the Manning cast the first half when Belichick's on this year. But just to finish up with
we have Dallas Clark running the end, we have this guy running the post. This was the call during quarters. Pittsburgh. And like Eli's like, shouldn't that be Pennsylvania, Peyton? Penn, he's going the in and then the post, Pennsylvania. And then Peyton wasn't listening to anything that Eli was saying.
And Belichick's like, shut up, Eli. He's painting right now. Let him paint.
Belichick was so good, man.
No, he was great. He was great last night. Wow. He's a natural on TV. He breaks it down kind of like Greg Cosell or Baldinger. He just give you the X's and O's of it. But
I know there's an oversaturation of him right now, but there's a reason why Belichick's getting all these jobs. It is because he is terrific at it.
Yes. Just to finish up on the game, Kyle Shanahan, I'm not going to shit on the Jets defense. Kyle Shanahan knew what Robert Saleh wanted to do. He knows him better than anybody. He knew that he had to run the football right down the Jets' throat, and then the Jets got better about it in the second half. And yeah, Brock Purdy just picked apart the Jets' defense. And Sauce Gardner got winded on 9 plays, left the field. I was wondering what injury does he have, and then come to find out, like he just was on the sideline to catch his breath. I thought he got benched at one point, but no, it was just because he was winded. And yeah, Brock Purdy was slicing and dicing them. They didn't have to punt that much or at all after the first drive. So the Jets defense, I don't think they're bad. I just think they played a really, really good team. They played arguably the second best team in all of football last night. So I'm not ready to say they're bad. I think a lot of people were like, oh, that Jets defense is overhyped. Well, we'll see. They'll probably be better against lesser teams or, have better performances. Also was the first game of the season. So I'm not ready to say the Jets team overall is bad. I don't know what this offense is going to look like. And I expect Rodgers to get better, next week against the Titans, but I expect this defense to be really good too. I was surprised they didn't get as much pressure on the offensive line as I, would have expected. But then again, they're going up against Trent Williams, and the Niners offensive line played way better than we anticipated. But, I expected more from Quinnen Williams and, Jermaine Johnson and who was the other? Will McDonald. And it may be that they need Hassan Reddick. It may be that they need more pass rush. But I'm not ready to say that the Jets defense sucks. I just think that basically the biggest takeaways I have from this weekend of games, the Chiefs and Niners did not fall off at all. They still are probably the 2 best teams in all of football.
Agreed. And the defensive line, Michael Clemens got crushed in this game. And I mean, we haven't really talked about it because I don't think there's any point in speculating. But I do think the 49ers hit some stuff with Christian McCaffrey, and the Jets had a game plan around that. And I don't think they expected Jordan Mason and just the simple outside zone stuff. They probably expected a more complicated offense, not creating excuses because to quote the great Patches O'Houlihan, the 49ers grabbed him and humped him in the submission. That's the only way. They really ran the ball. They really ran the ball down their gullet, and there was nothing they could do. But I mean, that's the reason why it was such a big deal with Jordan Mason revealing that he was told on Friday, then Kyle Shanahan kind of playing dumb about it. It's because accuracy matters with this sort of stuff, and that's why there are these rules in place. But did it factor in? Maybe, but I don't think it's, to the point where I thought the Jets would have won had Christian McCaffrey actually played. It's just, I think that's another added wrinkle.
Let's get into that real quick of Jordan Mason. Post game, Lisa Salters asks him, when did you know you were going to start? And I think some of us were expecting him to say like, oh, I just found out an hour before the game started or this morning or whatever. And then he says, no, I found out on Friday. And when you hear the clip, he says, I believe it's Friday, something like that. And so it's not definite. And as soon as he said that, I was like, uh-oh, he should not have said that. And either he misspoke or he revealed something that Kyle Shanahan did not want him to know. So then in the post game, more people ask about when did Jordan Mason know he was going to start that game, and Kyle goes, I didn't tell him that he was starting. I said that you're probably going to get a lot of carries, but I didn't say he was starting. That's probably something Bobby Turner told him. And then Jordan Mason, what's supposed to be the biggest night of his life, it's his best performance in the NFL so far, gets 147 yards rushing on 28 carries, more than any running back in the Kyle Shanahan era. And he's pissed off because now I'm assuming that he probably got a talking to after the game saying, hey, don't say stuff like that. Don't say that we told you you're starting. And either he misspoke or he was told something and they probably told him you got to keep that stuff a secret, or no, that's not what happened, Jordan. So then when he went to the podium and Matt Mayoko asks him, when did you know you were starting? He's like, that's why I'm mad. That's why I'm mad. And he brushed it off and then gave short answers to the media the rest of the night. I thought it kind of ruined the night for him, to be completely honest. Not that he needs to be cordial, whatever, to the media. I don't believe in that stuff. But he was so overjoyed and happy when he gave that interview to Lisa Salters. And then it became like, I'm pissed off now because you guys twisted my words around. And that could have easily been avoided if Jordan Mason just said, yeah, look, I misspoke. What was told to me was I would be getting a lot of carries, but never was I told I would start. There's an easy way to avoid that. Now Florio's looking into, did Kyle Shanahan bend the rules to gain an advantage? And so, you know what? I understand they fine everybody for that shit, but so what? I think, should we have to reveal everything to the media? Like, I understand for injury reports, that stuff's important for fantasy and gambling and all that shit, but doesn't Kyle Shanahan have the right to not reveal that Christian McCaffrey's not going to play in that game? I honestly believe that they didn't tell Jordan. What's up?
No.
What do you mean no?
Because you got till 2 days before the game to reveal that. You can't. If you knew that he was going to be out, there's a reason that rules are in place, dude. I know the rule probably sucks, but it's the rule.
Well, I know a lot of fantasy people were pissed off about that because they were all waiting on McCaffrey to save them.
They're all just pissed off because of their own selfish reasons. It's not because of they're pissed off because of the rule.
Yeah, but like, okay, but shouldn't there be like, okay, he was on the injury report. It wasn't like this came out of nowhere. He was questionable. He was questionable. But should he have to reveal that he's out?
Yeah. You should have to reveal that you're doubtful or out if you know 2 days before the game.
Okay, so do you think that he knew that?
Yes. I absolutely do.
I think that they were benefiting from being at home. And they were like, let's see what happens. We're not traveling anywhere. We don't have to say that Christian McCaffrey didn't make the flight, so he's not going to play. They benefited from being at home, and then there was wait and see to see how he was going to play on Monday. I think it was the same thing as Russell Wilson flying to Atlanta and being inactive and wearing his shoulder pads for whatever fucking stupid reason that was. But that's just weird. That's just fucking weird. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I think that Jordan Mason could have turned, an unpleasant moment into a better moment. But I understand, like, he's young and he was excited and he may have misspoke or said the truth, and he was reprimanded for it, and now he doesn't trust the media. But I don't know.
Well, if the 49 look, man, I'm blaming the 49ers in this. I'm not blaming Jordan Mason. I think Jordan Mason he was asked a question and was, and revealed what he was told. Like, no one's going to tell him, by the way, don't tell anyone that we know that you're starting tonight. Like, he probably got told from a outside source, Kyle Shanahan saying, I never told him that. And then looking at Bobby Turner. Well, if you're being told that you are going to start, then like that probably that's going to get looked into, and it's the 49ers' fault.
Okay, but does it necessarily mean that McCaffrey's not playing?
What do you mean?
If Jordan Mason's told he's starting, that doesn't mean that Christian McCaffrey is out.
Sure.
So,
but
I think I understand that, but I also think there's some leeway in to say, like, okay, so Christian McCaffrey's going to get less carries. He's going to be in certain packages, but Jordan Mason's going to start. I think there's a way to get around it.
Sure, but the 49ers shouldn't have put them in position in the first place. And I think that people are sneaky in the NFL, man, and I wouldn't put it past Shanahan to do that. I really wouldn't. Because you got to try to gain any advantage that you can to win. And I just think it's the 49ers' fault. Again, I'm not blaming Jordan Mason. I think they put him in a really, really bad position. And I would not. But at the same time, dude, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because they're not going to strip away the win. And had Christian McCaffrey been healthy anyway, or had they known he'd been out, then I'm not going to sit here and say the Jets would have won that football game.
Right.
But there are rules for a reason. And it seemed to me that the 49ers possibly bent those rules a little bit.
Yeah, you may be right, but as you just said, in the grand scheme of things, who really cares?
You're right. It doesn't matter.
They won the game.
And at the end of the day, my brother lost in like a lot of fantasy leagues because of it. So I loved the move.
Suck it, Ian.
Well, I'm just saying, like, the guy's in 7 different leagues, and it's like,
oh God, 7?
Dude. It's like he texted me yesterday. He's like not even, or excuse me, on Sunday he texted me. He said, God, that play just blew my fantasy lead or whatever. I'm like, there's going to be a lot of plays that blow a lead that you have in fantasy if you have 7 goddamn leagues.
He's got 7?
7. He can't say no, man.
How does he manage
this
his
is normal?
He's got 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have trouble with 3.
I got 4. I
thought about doing 4. I said no.
Yes.
I mean, even the Ernies wanted me in a fantasy league. I'm sorry, guys. Just 3's too many.
Dude, 7.
Yeah.
And so he ended up going, I don't know if he wants me to reveal this, but whatever. He ended up going like 2-5 out of his 7 leagues in the weekend. At first, he told me he was going 4-3, and then he was going 2-5.
And that's after McCaffrey didn't play for some of those leagues?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll happen.
And Jessie was playing in her first fantasy week. Did you win or lose?
We don't need to talk about
Okay, she lost. So Jessie lost in her first week. Did not know what was going on. I'm actually really proud because kind of that league it's really my league, because I'm the one that drafted a majority of the team until we had to do the pod. And I was torn. I was torn between.
I don't know if that's fair.
I was torn between this pick with Stephon Diggs and I forgot who else, but there was Stephon Diggs and someone else, and literally at the last second picked Diggs right away. Reminded me of a Goofy movie when they're about to get off on the junction. Then Goofy lets Max take the map. Here's our junction, and then he's left. Yeah, like right at the end, like when the clock was down to 1. When the clock was down to 1, I was like, Diggs! Managed to get Diggs at the last moment.
Yeah. Great analogy there, Steven. Using the Goofy movie to talk about a tough decision.
Look, dude, power line, all right?
Yeah, I know. Hey. Till you notice me. And some of the opiners are mad that I passed up on that fantasy league. AJ Cruz. You let us all down, Derek. Hey, listen, guys, I have a hard time managing so many different fantasy leagues. So I got 3, and I went 2-1 in all 3 of them. And by the way, Ernie 2 asks here, hey, Derek, did you have to manually add the points? There was a thing, Steven, I tell you about this in one of the KNBR League, that there's this dumbass rule in fantasy football and on Yahoo where if you draft after midnight, the day before the opener, so we drafted at 1 o'clock on Thursday. There's a good 4 hours until the Thursday night game kicks off. There's a dumbass rule in on Yahoo Fantasy where if you draft on Thursday, that doesn't count towards week 1. So while we drafted, Raf in our community, and Raf, who's famous for working on Marty's show on the weekends, Marty Lurie, he texts me and goes, "Hey, it's saying that our season starts during week 2." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I looked at the rules and the settings. Yeah, Yahoo has a dumbass rule where if you draft on Thursday, hours before the first game, it doesn't count towards week 1. Luckily, I was able to change things in the settings. I thought originally I was going to have to manually put all of our numbers in and everything, like do the math myself. But thank God that didn't happen. No, to answer your question, Ernie 2, everything went through. I don't know what the deal is with Yahoo Fantasy, but the wins and losses were counted up. I didn't have to do anything. Thank God I avoided all that shit.
Huh.
Yeah, very weird.
That's a lot.
It's way too much.
Do you ever regret doing fantasy when you get into it?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I definitely regret being the commissioner of the KNBR Football League.
Oh, doing the station was even worse.
So many people bitching. So many people bitching. Mainly Brian Murphy. Good Lord. I wanted to just get away with waivers, and God forbid. Oh, what are you doing? You fucking things up already in this league? We make you commissioner, now you're fucking things up? All right, Murph, calm the fuck down. Jesus. Good Lord. It's just fantasy football, for Christ's sake. Anyway.
Was that the other night when he took his when it was pretty cool? He took a bunch of it. I think maybe his son's a part of the Little League in Mill Valley or something. Took a bunch of them to the game. I like to picture them because it was all, it was all cheers and Murph pointing at the kids on the broadcast and stuff and all that. I just like to picture that in between innings, he's texting you saying, "Oh, fuck off, Derek, with your fantasy rules."
Yep. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Taking those kids out for a nice time at the ballpark, and he's motherfucking me in the group chat. Thanks, Murph. Anyway, so yeah, our fantasy complaints aside, mainly takeaway from Monday night. Niners look great, and we'll see when they need McCaffrey. They don't need him right now. I think they could still beat the Vikings without him. But Shanahan doing his thing, man.
Dude, I just at the end of the day, keep him out. I don't think you need him. I think you could survive with Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero moving forward for the next couple of games.
I think you're gonna need him against the Rams, though.
Yeah, you could. I mean, look, man, the Rams lost that game, but they played. I think they played the Lions real well, and that's the type of game the Lions should win if they're meant to represent the NFC, which a lot of people think they're going to do.
Yeah, let's get into some quick hits from Week 1. Just our observations from the non-Raider and Niner games. As I said, Week 1 started with craziness on Sunday morning. Was not expecting Dak Prescott to get paid. You had Justin Fields starting for Russell Wilson. We found out that Jamar Chase was not going to get his contract. So is Jamar Chase going to hold out during plays of this game that's coming up in a couple of hours? And then Tyreek Hill gets arrested or detained as he's driving to the stadium. And that was nuts. Jeff Darlington involved in both major arrests in sports this year when he was there on the scene for Scotty Scheffler, and then he gets who's the agent? I can't believe fucking what's his name? Next question.
Drew Rosenhaus.
Drew Rosenhaus. He gets Drew Rosenhaus on the field explaining what happened. If you've seen the body cam footage, it's terrible. I think it's terrible. And I know some people are like, Tyreek Hill, oh my God, okay, let me not trivialize it. What Tyreek Hill has been accused of in the past is terrible. Absolutely terrible. From beating his girlfriend, pregnant girlfriend, to possibly breaking his son's arm. That's awful. But are the two situations separated? Yes. I think it also could be terrible to what happened to him on Sunday. Now, what you watch from the body cam footage, yes, did Tyreek Hill, kind of, it sounds like he was speeding. He was going 60 in a 40, mile zone. Players do that. Do I condone speeding? No, but he was trying to get to the game, and that's going to happen sometimes. He was, kind of talking back to the cop and didn't want to roll his window down. You do have to roll your window down to a cop, but you don't have to roll it all the way down. So what it looks like, the cop was banging on his door, and he said, "Don't bang on my car window." And then that led to the cop thinking that, okay, well, I'm going to grab your ass out of this car. And it turned to a whole thing of Tyreek Hill saying, you're doing this to me because of the color on my skin. And they're like, please, man, we're dark too. Like, the whole thing's ridiculous. It's terrible. If you watch the body cam footage, it's just another example of police just using their power over people. I don't care if Tyreek Hill is privileged and has money. It's a bad situation. You don't want to see that. So, and then he, went out there and balled. He caught the longest touchdown of his career, 80 yards, and the Dolphins came back and won that game. We'll get into that a little bit, but yeah, man, that was crazy to see that before the game started on Sunday.
Yeah, isn't it a interesting coincidence that when Scotty Scheffler gets arrested, detained, and then booked into the jail and brought back out for his tee time, it turned out that the Louisville police were really stretching the truth as to what happened, and the body cam footage revealed something completely different than what they were talking about. The statement from the Miami-Dade police, or Miami-Dade rather, the union officer, was that he failed to cooperate twice with law enforcement and was redirected to the ground. Redirected. And then saw that statement. Then the body cam footage came out. That's not what happened. And yes, I don't know what the answer is to all of this, but there continues to be police who do abuse their power. And I don't know if it's the color of skin. I don't know if it's the car that he's driving. And these cops feel like this guy needs to learn a lesson on the streets and all that sort of stuff. Like, I don't know, man. I can't side with the police on this one. And I kind of understand why they reacted the way that they did. And I give credit to Tyreek for his post-game press conference, not reacting out of emotion and saying something outlandish. He kind of kept his cool and said he didn't want to comment, but he respects cops and
wants to be one.
Says he has a police hat, so he's always wanted to be one. And I'm like, okay, but
he wants to be a porn star and a police officer. Good for him.
Right. No, maybe that's what he was talking about. Maybe he wants to be a cop in a porn.
Yeah. Which are the best cops.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's not a laughing matter or whatever. But,
no, yeah.
But I thought, the way that he handled that was commendable. Seeing Mike McDaniel and how emotional he was after that incident. Yeah, man, it was a lot.
Yeah,
cop porn. Yeah, Otis, come on, man. The good old fashioned cop porn.
The good cop, bad cop porn.
Not popcorn, cop porn.
There you go. But yeah, with the whole situation, there is no reason whatsoever to drag a man out of his car and put him on the pavement after speeding. I'm sorry. Right. There's a way to do it. They could have said, sir, you are driving way too fast. And we know that you're trying to go to the game today. You are a player. Do you want to, could have simply said, we can make this process go way smoother if you just cooperate, and we'll give you a ticket for speeding, and you don't want to be late to the game today. So let's make this go quickly. There's a way to talk to people instead of just flexing your nuts on somebody because you're a cop. I can't stand that shit. So yeah, that was a bad situation all the way around. as far as the game, Jaguars should have won that game. They were up 14-0, and then they were going into the end zone, and Travis Etienne fumbles the ball in the end zone, and then right after that, Tua finds Tyreek Hill for the long touchdown. It's 17-14, and then probably one of the biggest boneheaded decisions of the weekend. Doug, why am I blanking on his name? Who's the head coach of the Jaguars?
Peterson.
Doug Peterson. Jesus, my memory sometimes these days. Doug Peterson decides to go for it on a 4th and 1. I believe on his own, 30?
32.
32. And he pitches it out to Travis Etienne, and he there's no room on the right side, so he goes all the way around on the left, and it was terrible. And it set up the Dolphins a perfect field position. They missed the field goal, but they got all the momentum after that. So I don't know what the hell Doug Peterson was thinking there. That's basically they gave the game away to the Dolphins.
I think the Jaguars are going to be fine. I think they're a very well-rounded team. And yes, the momentum completely switched. And I texted you and I said, wow, they are, because I thought, with their receiving core, Brian Thomas Jr. is legit. I think they need to get him more targets. And really, Trevor Lawrence didn't have that many pass attempts. After all, he only passed 21 times. But if they can manage to scheme guys open, I think they got very talented receivers. I think this duo of running backs with Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, I really think this offense is really well-rounded. I don't know about the defense. I'm not going to act like I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything about the defense, but I just watched that offense. I was really intrigued with it. I think the Jaguars are going to be a fun team to watch this year. That was just a week one blunder. We talked about the Niners kind of knocking the rust off with Ayuk and Williams. Well, a lot of these teams are knocking the rust off because a lot of them didn't play in the preseason, and coaches didn't have to make that crucial of a decision in the preseason. And Doug Peterson was kind of knocking off the rust too. So I think they'll be fine. But that touchdown you mentioned, watching that live, you're just like, my God, how does anyone ever stop Tyreek?
No, it's insane. It's insane. And by the way, I was thinking of Doug Marrone. Remember Doug Marrone, the old head coach of the Jaguars?
Oh yeah, of course.
I got mixed up on my Dougs. Anyway, so yeah, there you go on the Dolphins and Jaguars. I think both teams will be good this year. I thought it was just a pretty questionable decision by Doug Peterson there, and then in the late stages of that game.
Yep.
The Browns and Cowboys game. Cowboys look like the Cowboys earlier on in the season. Dak looked good. The defense looked good. 6 sacks on the Browns. I kind of how I expected it to go a little bit. I was expecting a little bit more offense from the Browns, but yeah, Deshaun Watson, man, Jesus, and I will give him a little bit of a pass in this game because they did not have both starting tackles for the Browns, but man, he just looks terrible. That may go down as one of the worst trades of all time, and I want to see where this team goes when it's full strength, but I can't blame him entirely. I just think that they didn't have a lot of work with. They don't have Nick Chubb, and it's a lot of excuses. They should put up more offensive, bigger offensive output than what they did. But yeah, it was that was kind of rough to watch from the Brown standpoint.
They have set themselves back, man. And whatever happened with Deshaun and the fact that another accuser came out, and also not to mention, I think his dad, his estranged father, passed away like a couple of days ago or a couple of days prior to that game. So there was a lot on his mind, and he did get pressured 25 times, which was more than any other quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
But with that being said, you're paying a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. That type of quarterback with being paid that type of money should be able to escape any sort of pressure that's put on him. And I'll say this, like I thought they were going to be a 10-win team just based on Deshaun Watson being a serviceable quarterback. But if he continues to go at that rate, I don't know where the Browns go from here. I think it's a little overreaction to say, they're completely done because there was a lot going on with Deshaun. I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy who has just been accused again of sexual assault. Another accuser came out from something stemming from 2020, but he doesn't look like the same quarterback anymore. But I will say this, the defense that he played, my defensive player of the year pick was Max Crosby. Felt like Christian Wilkins was going to get the best out of him. But if we're going to take the regular season, and again, I'm not falling into the trap of the Dallas Cowboys. They do this every year. They look legit in the regular season, then falter in the divisional round. I know that's a stupid sports radio bullshit thing to do, but I'm not going to fall into the trap of thinking the Cowboys are contenders for the Super Bowl. But they are a very good regular season team. And that man, Micah Parsons, was a one-man wrecking crew against the backup tackles yesterday. That dude was unbelievable. Just anyone that can, go back and watch Micah Parsons and isolate him against the Browns. He was tremendous yesterday. I think he had like 7 of those 25 pressures or some crazy number like that.
Yeah, no, the Cowboys were impressive, but let's see what they do in the postseason. And then,
I know it's like you want to take it game by game, but God, the Cowboys do this every year.
I know. And, it's what they do in week 1. But, yeah, I'm not ready to kill the Browns just yet. I think they're a good team. I think they're good defensively with their pass rushers, with Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. And they got playmakers. It's just, I don't think any quarterback would have been successful yesterday with that, or on Sunday with that situation of the 2 tackles being out. So, I know Deshaun has not played well, but let's see what happens when everyone's healthy, if it gets to that point. I did watch that.
Parsons had 9 pressures. He had 9
pressures.
Demarcus Lawrence had 8.
Jesus. Yeah, God. I mean, even Patrick Mahomes didn't play well in the Super Bowl when he didn't have his tackle. So maybe we should wait till we get a little more of a sample size with the Browns. I did watch all of that game, mainly because I wanted to hear how Tom Brady did as a broadcaster. And I know everyone's grilling him, saying like, oh, he was boring. I thought he was fine. I didn't think he was amazing. I just thought he was okay, kind of what I expected. I saw his interview with Joel Klatt during the Texas and Michigan game, and he looked nervous as hell in that game. Or, well, in that interaction. He didn't look nervous. He just sounded like so unsure of himself. Like, he does this thing when he broadcasts where he stops mid-sentence and kind of thinks about what he's saying. And believe me, I do that when I do this podcast. But when you're broadcasting a game, everything's so fast-paced, you got to be a little faster than that. That's why the decision to go from Tom Brady to Greg Olsen, or Greg Olsen to Tom Brady, I understand it because you want a big name. When Troy Aikman and Joe Buck left Fox, they left a huge void in Fox's broadcast for their biggest thing in football. And they went all out to get Tom Brady. But they didn't realize what they had in Greg Olsen. So I think everybody needs to just stop comparing the two. I think Greg Olsen's amazing and Tom Brady's going to learn. It's not like he made me laugh or was insightful with anything. It was his first broadcast, so he's learning. On the flip side, or not on the flip side, but a different broadcast, Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football. I love Chris Collinsworth. I find him entertaining, but he's kind of slipping a little bit.
Yes.
He didn't realize that the Lions were trying to kick a field goal at the end of a game, or trying to score a touchdown instead of kicking a field goal. He thought it was the old rules. At one point, Matthew Stafford throws a pass, and it's week 1, and Collinsworth goes, well, that might be the throw of the year. You're like, Chris, it's week 1. Let's relax a little bit. Jesus.
Yeah.
After
Anthony Richardson made that throw for the Colts, calling Stafford's the throw of the year, that's a little bit of a stretch. Fantastic,
I agree, but a little bit of a stretch. And yeah, I think you could see Greg Olsen possibly take that Sunday Night Football job pretty soon here.
Well, I hope so, because that's the thing I took away from Tom Brady. Sure, there's growing pains when it comes to being a broadcaster, but for Fox to just make him part of the top team and throw Greg Olsen back with corny Joe Davis, that's mean. That's mean. That's mean. I just think that Joe Davis sometimes has these scripted calls that just are a little like, come on. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, that shouldn't have said that. I apologize, Joe. That's mean. Nope. Take that back. I used to love Collinsworth.
Wow.
I used to love Collinsworth, but he was not good.
Now
Sunday.
here's a guy who we talking about?
Yeah, just, look at this offensive lineman. He's made tremendous strides this year. I know he's getting beat on this play. And he was getting beat on every other play. Didn't win a single rep, and he's trying to talk up this offensive lineman. It's like, okay. But to the Brady thing, yeah, why promote him to the top team if you were going to be going through this? I just don't think it's fair. And I don't know. Maybe that's just because I'm not like maybe Steven's a taker backer. Yeah, I guess I'm a taker backer.
Yeah, go all in on Joe Davis.
No, I don't want to do that because, like, what if I meet him one day? I don't know. You never know in this business. Got to keep it classy. It's like, these are the types of podcasts where no one's really listening right now, but for future jobs, that's when they go back and listen to everything. And Saturday Night Live, Shane Gillis.
You could easily just say, like, oh, I'm sorry, I was wrapped up in my Giants fandom. as he's the voice of the Dodgers.
Yeah. That whole thing. What was I? Wouldn't it be cool if Joe Davis was watching this podcast? Absolutely. What was I gonna say? I don't know. Whatever.
Tom Brady. I'm with you, Steven. It's
great. We'll give him the flexibility, but Fox shouldn't have paid him a 10-year, $400 million contract so he could broadcast games, and you catapult him to the top spot on TV because he's Tom Brady. Like, I get it. I understand. And you literally said it. You watched that game because you wanted to see Tom Brady. And that's probably going to be the case with a lot of games that he broadcasts this year. But I just don't think it's fair to Greg, to G-Reg, to Greg the third leg.
What's your name, G-Reg? Yeah, I'm with you. I think probably the smarter move in hindsight would have been to keep Greg Olson and within the next few years here, get rid of Terry Bradshaw and have Tom Brady be part of the set, the pre and post, and not in the booth. Is the Biz Quiz going back in the behind you there?
Jesse has been sipping.
No, I didn't start it. I'm just speaking for the people.
Yeah, I noticed there was a point of contention in the background of you not having the Bisquick there.
Yeah, there's only a couple of people in the chat who seem to be perturbed by it.
It's usually skills, and it was brought up by Ray Ratto about a month ago.
Yeah, and he's not wrong. It does kind of look like a prison ward in here. Yeah.
To go through the other games real quick, I thought I nailed it with my Titans pick, and the Bears defense just bailed out Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
You and me were texting. You were talking about how Brian Callahan was dialing it up offensively.
He did on that one touchdown drive. Yeah.
No, he definitely did, and he's going to be a good offensive play caller. And then Caleb Williams just, it was his first NFL game. I'm not going to say, kind of like Tom Brady, it's his first game. I'm not going to say that he's going to be bad. It's just it's growing pains. So he was figuring things out. He was trying to throw deep to his guys and trying to do his USC thing, but it wasn't working out. And then, God, Will Levis could be really good, and then he could be really bad. After Jonathan Owen, Simone Biles' husband, gets that block punt for a touchdown, Will Levis has like a Brett Favrean interception. Like, it was awful. He's already getting sacked. Just take the sack. But he flips the ball up in the air, and then it's easily intercepted by Tyreek Stevenson and goes for a touchdown. That lost him the game. And it was just terrible turnovers. Caleb Williams didn't do much in that game. He didn't do anything to make him lose that game, but he didn't do much offensively. I thought the Titans pissed away that game.
They did. And there's no reason he should do that. But if you watched any of that, it felt like that was going to happen with one of the quarterbacks. Will Levis had that problem last year, and Caleb Williams needs to learn that it's okay to take the sack. Like, you can get away with it in the Pac-12. You can get away with it in college football, where a rusher's coming at you, you evade that pass rusher, and you got time. You just evade one guy, and there's no one else coming after you. But this is the NFL, man. It does not last long. And the stat that's most damning to me, besides that play where he just flicked it, you've seen that with with Levis, though. Some of these guys get really lucky when they're trying to avoid a sack and just get the incompletion instead. But the damning stat, and I'm going to go analytics on you, but the one that's kind of grown in popularity is the EPA per dropback, the expected points added per dropback. It's like the amount of points that's expected with each completion. And Will Levis easily had the lowest EPA per dropback out of all the starting quarterbacks that played this past week. Bo Nix was at the bottom there. Daniel Jones right there too. Kirk Cousins as well. But that stat's pretty damning. Like when you're in the middle, doesn't mean you played a good or bad game. But if you have one that's well in the minus 0.56, it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So Will Levis needs to be a little smarter with the football, and we'll see if Caleb Williams improves.
Yeah, Caleb Williams looked really shaky. He just looked really. You were absolutely right. You had it on the money. The rookie jitters were absolutely there. Whenever he got pressure in his face, he got happy feet. But God, there's one play that he made. There's one throw on the run, and he's rolling to his right, and he rifles it. I think it's
I saw it.
I think it was the pass to DJ Moore. And you're like, God, this guy really does have that tool in his tool bag. Outside of the nail polish, he has that in his tool bag where he can throw on the run and throw a dart.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't care about that nail polish. I'm not Terry Bradshaw.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw seemed to have a good laugh about that one.
Who would have thought that Terry Bradshaw would be the guy to call it out awkwardly?
Yeah, you know what? Terry Bradshaw was accused of being... Yeah, but you know what? Terry Bradshaw was deemed, kind of eccentric when he was a quarterback when he was younger, and kind of like the guy that complained to Chuck Noll all the time. And so I don't want to hear from Terry. That's different generations, same shit. Mm-hmm. The Steelers-Falcons game. No Russell Wilson. He's wearing the shoulder pads on the sideline like a weirdo. That's just fucking weird. It's kind of like when he said he was doing the 2-minute drill on the airplane in London. Like, stop it, Russell. You're saying the just weirdest shit.
I like to think that he wears football pads everywhere.
Yeah, I know. When he's in bed with Sierra at night.
Yeah, like just when he's asleep, he sleeps with a football and like eye black and his pads. He goes to church in that same attire. I just like to think that he's dressed up, ready for football at all times. When he goes to Subway and orders that Danger Russ sandwich that doesn't exist anymore.
Danger Witch.
Oh, sorry, the Danger Witch.
Get it right, Steven. Yeah. Basically, the Steelers' defense is legit. TJ Watt could have had an all-time performance. I think if there was no penalties called, he would have ended up with 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery.
Crazy.
And 2 things were nullified. Two sacks were nullified. He ended up with a sack and a forced fumble, but still his presence was felt the whole game. The Steelers defense is great. Justin Fields did enough to win that game. They kicked 6 field goals. Kirk Cousins was rusty. I'm not ready to say that he's going to get benched for Michael Penix, but I will tell people the Falcons could start 0-3. They have the Eagles next week, and then they have the Chiefs after that. And I wouldn't be so quick to bench Kirk Cousins after that. There's going to be some growing pains, but their schedule gets a little easier after that. So I wouldn't say that you need to bench Kirk Cousins after what you saw yesterday. I just think that he's playing a pretty good defense. And that offense, they got Kyle Pitts, but we thought automatically like, Kirk Cousins is there, so they're going to be offensive juggernauts. The receiving core is still just Drake London and Darnell Mooney. Their leading receiver was Ray McLeod. So they're going to feed the ball to Bijan. I think they're going to be good. I just think that they played a really good defense on Sunday.
Sure, but I think that offense was expected to put up more than 10 points. Bottom line. I know you got to give the defense credit, but I mean, the Steelers were the other team that had their kicker make 6 field goals. Actually, I saw some crazy number where like all but 3 kickers made their 50-plus yard attempts, which is just kickers seem to be running wild in week 1.
Oh, yeah.
But
between Moody and Boswell.
But that's the type of game where you got to put up more than that. I know they're going up against a good defense, but good offense should always be a good defense, and that kind of shows me that the Falcons just aren't there yet.
We'll see. We'll see about that. And then, I mean, speaking of poor offenses, God, I think probably the biggest upset of the weekend, the Bengals. I thought initially this game was decided because Jamar Chase took plays off. I looked at the snap count. He was in for 41 or 43 of 51 offensive snaps. Not crazy. So he was there for the most part. He was targeted 6 times. Weird press conference afterwards where they were asked, how come you were only targeted 6 times? And he caught all 6 balls. He was like, go ask Zach Taylor. The Bengals they lay an egg every week one. And offensively, they look totally out of rhythm. Um, the Mike Gesicki touchdown, I thought was a touchdown. He misses, he drops the ball in the end. The Patriots made the most out of it in the red zone. They caused turnovers. They might be good defensively. I don't think they're going to be very good offensively. They ran the ball well with Ramondre Stevenson, but the Bengals are figuring things out. They didn't have T. Higgins. They, new running game with Zach Moss. I'm not going to read too much into it with the Bengals. It's only week one. I just think that they lay some stinkers after week one all the time.
It's true, but I do think that last player you mentioned might have been a sign. But Joe Mixon led the league in rushing this week.
Yeah.
Gets himself 150 yards on 30 carries. And that Bengals rushing attack, they're expecting Zach Moss to be the lead guy. That's a downgrade. That's a downgrade at that position. And Joe Burrow hasn't played without a star at running back. So we are entering new territory there. What's it going to look like on play action without that threat of the run? Zach Moss could barely crack the Bills' starting job. I don't have much confidence in that. And I wonder if that's going to play out through the season, or if T. Higgins gets healthy and Jamar Chase is, playing another week, like maybe the passing game will just open things up for the run game. But that run game right now, I just don't like how it looks on paper.
Yeah, they definitely struggled, and we'll see if it improves. It's gonna have to improve against the Chiefs this upcoming week.
Yeah.
Speaking of Joe Mixon, that was a thoroughly entertaining game. Probably the best of Sunday's slate between the Texans and Colts. Mm-hmm. And I was really impressed with what the Texans did. Their 2 biggest free agent pickups, well, not free agents, but their additions in the offseason, both through trades. Joe Mixon, you said it, Steven, most rushing yards this weekend, scored a touchdown. Stephon Diggs scored 2 touchdowns. They look really good. Their defense looks good, even though they gave up some points to the Colts. I was impressed with both teams. Anthony Richardson, he's got to work on his accuracy, but damn, can he sling it. That throw to Alec Pierce, good Lord, where he's basically stumbling and then just flicked it. Like, that reminded me of Dante Culpepper. Like, God, that was an amazing throw. He's going to make that team very exciting. The throw to Ashton Doolin, the touchdown run he had. Yeah, I'm not down on the Colts, and I'm not, too hyped up on the Texans. I thought both played really well, and I'm looking forward to C.J. Stroud versus Anthony Richardson in the future.
Yeah, I don't want to say he has like a lot of Colin Kaepernick in him, but it feels like Anthony Richardson is going to struggle with the same aspects of the game that Colin Kaepernick struggled with. Even
Maybe
Justin Herbert's struggling with it a little bit right now, where some of these balls that they're throwing just a little too hard. And they got such a big arm that some receivers aren't used to it, but it could also be to their detriment, because as much as you want to look at that touchdown pass, which you should, it really was like it's hard to imagine we'll see a better throw than that. It really, I know it's saying a lot, but God, it was a dime as he's on his back foot falling over, and Joe Flacco on mic'd up is saying on the bench, dude, that was literally the farthest pass I've ever seen thrown in a game. Like, and he was being dead serious about it. So I don't think there's really much hyperbole with that throw. However, just go back and look at that interception that Richardson threw too. Just totally overthrowing his receiver.
Yep.
And I think that's something you're going to have to take the good with the bad with him. And like, I'm not going to sit here and say Anthony Richardson shouldn't have been drafted by the Colts. He doesn't deserve to be a starting quarterback. I wanted the Raiders to get him for those reasons specifically. But also, that's why you said, well, there's risk there because he's raw. He's got a lot of talent. And that talent, you've seen it. But there's also a lot of work that he has to do on his game if he wants to become like a well-rounded quarterback.
Yeah, I said that at the time when the Raiders were in the mix for potentially drafting Anthony Richardson, and I still stand by that he's got some growing pains. However, you would definitely take Anthony Richardson on the Raiders right now, no doubt.
Yeah, I
Um,
would. God, I'd be feeling so much better about that team if they had him.
Now, you know, two of the best quarterbacks from this past weekend, Steven? Derek Carr and Sam Darnold. Derek Carr looked great in this Clint Kubiak offense.
Sam Darnold was meh.
Oh, come on. Dude, Darnold was...
Stats look good, but he still made some Sam Darnold-type plays that could have been worse.
He threw a pick, but for the most part, he was highly accurate. No, Sam Darnold played a great game.
He was all right.
Okay. So, no surprise there. Daniel Jones. Oh, boy. That pick 6 to Van Ginkel. He always seems to be like in the right spot, like to pick off a pass as a linebacker. But yeah, the Vikings just kicked the Giants' ass as expected. The Saints, they might have an offense on their hands, and they've always had a good defense. And Derek Carr and Rashid Shaheed is a pretty good combination. God, Bryce Young just may be a bust. I mean, we'll see where that goes, but the Panthers just look worse.
I think that was Derek Carr taking advantage of a really good, really shitty defense. Panthers aren't going to be good.
Could be very well, and Derek Brown, their stud defensive tackles, out for the season. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I know it was week 1, but I was impressed by Sam Darnold and Derek Carr.
That's a disrespect to say they had the 2 best weeks of any quarterback.
No. I did not say that.
You did.
I did not say that.
You did.
I said 2 quarterbacks had a very good weekend.
You said the best weekend.
Did I say the best weekend?
I think you did.
Then, like Jordan Mason, I misspoke.
Or maybe that's how I heard it.
Now I'm mad for misspeaking. No, they did not have the best performance. Honestly, the guy with the best performance this past weekend, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Throwing 4 touchdown passes. God, you think the Browns regret shipping him out of town and going after Sean Watson?
I think it was a fit thing. I really do. I think he might have found his home in Tampa Bay. I don't know what it was. Maybe he just needed a change of scenery, but it wasn't working in Cleveland. They weren't building whatever they were trying to build around him. And maybe you're understanding now why Amari Cooper would have been okay going with to the Niners instead of the Browns.
Yeah.
But
or maybe why Brandon Ayuk didn't want to go in the first place.
But God, it looks like he really has found something there. And you combine that with Rachaad White too. Buccaneers got themselves an offense.
They definitely got an offense. And on the flip side of that game, Jaden Daniels looked all right. But, he threw for a little bit over 100 yards and he rushed for 88. I want him to be more of a passer than a runner. That's what I'm hoping for, but he's going to be probably a dual threat.
He was the only guy to reach 20 miles an hour this weekend as I'm going next gen stats.
You love those next gen stats.
Yeah.
Unnecessary stats. Especially when you're in crunch time of trying to, push out a fucking NFL Network highlight, and one of the producers wants you to put those next gen stats in there that are so needed. Anyway, the Bills, I thought that they're a little rusty on defense, and they definitely might have made a lot of changes, but Josh Allen put the team on his back. I think this may be a Josh Allen MVP season if this team gets in the playoffs. And yes, probably the defense will go through some growing pains as they figure things out. Von Miller got a sack. Gregory Rousseau got 3 sacks. So I don't think they're going to be terrible. I think the Cardinals may be better this year, and they weren't anticipating that. So, but, I think that Josh Allen got that team going, and I think it's going to be, as we saw on Sunday, much more balanced, more running game. They got Ray Davis, the rookie running back, and they got James Cook. And yeah, I thought that, they look, people are going to say like they're going to have a down year. I think that's just, a week 1 high scoring game. Although Cardinals maybe should have won that game with a wide open Marvin Harrison Jr. at the end there.
That's what I was going to say. Josh Allen was fantastic, but I don't know about the Bills as a team because had he seen a wide open Marvin Harrison, I think it would have been a different outcome.
Very well. And then, the Seahawks getting one of their 3 wins on the season. I may have been crazy with that pick. But yeah, Seahawks defense looks good. Bo Nix, Rusty in his first start. I don't really know what to make of either team in that situation. I just think that the Seahawks are slightly better, and the Broncos will be learning.
I mean, I'm not going to say I told you so just yet after week 1, but Bo Nix did not look good.
No, he didn't, but we'll see where it goes, and we'll see if the Seahawks get more than 3 wins, which they probably will.
Yeah.
And then lastly, maybe the best game of the weekend was on Sunday Night Football between the Rams and Lions. And the Lions look better defensively. They look like they did a year ago offensively. One bad decision by Jared Goff of forcing the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Besides all that, they got maybe the best running game next to the Niners in all of football. The way that they're able to change things up with Montgomery or Gibbs. Jameson Williams, good God. That guy's, him and Amon-Ra St. Brown may be the best receiving core in football, receiving duo. They didn't even need Amon-Ra St. Brown to have a big night. I think he had like 3 catches for 8 yards or whatever it was, pretty low.
Yeah.
But Jameson Williams went off. Then the Rams got back in that game. Cooper Kupp, looks like old Cooper Kupp with 14 catches, and that's fine when Puka Nakua's out. He'll be out for the next 4 weeks. That's unfortunate, but they could plug and play guys in there, whether it's Demarcus Robinson or Tutu Atwell or any of these other guys. I think the Rams offensively will be fine for the pass catchers. Offensive line may be rusty, but the Rams were able to come back in that game. Stafford looks amazing. I can't believe people wanted him to retire. Mainly you after that one season with his shoulder, but he looks great.
Well,
and
he looks great, but God, every time he goes down, it feels like he gets up and he's limping, and
I know
it feels like he's always got something wrong.
He's old.
He is, but I almost feel bad watching him when he's out. Like, he does some amazing things. He's a. I'm not trying to take away anything who he is as a quarterback, but I'm just, every time I see him get up, he always is grimacing, like limping in a way, shaking his hand because his finger just broke. I don't know, but like,
yeah, he's been through a lot of shit in his career.
Yeah, I know.
Even his rookie year when he dislocated his shoulder, that famous NFL Films audio.
Oh God,
it's out.
Oh, I can't. I stop it.
But yeah, I mean, just that game goes to OT, and they literally just, as you like to say, just run it down their gullet. David Montgomery just running the ball in, just same play over and over and over and over and over again, like Marshawn Lynch, just over and over and over again, just run through a motherfucker's face. Yeah, the Lions are going to be good and the Rams are going to be good. So I came in impressed by both teams.
I did too, and I think at the top of this podcast, like when I mentioned teams kind of reheated and are back, I'm speaking more so about the 49ers and Lions. Looks like these two teams are the best in the NFC, and the Eagles are kind of creeping up, but it looks like these two teams are the cream of the crop right now.
Yep.
And I look, man, they really did just break them down in that overtime period. And David Montgomery was that dude. He was that dude in overtime.
Definitely was. All right. That is all of our picks, or not our picks, sorry, just all of the games from week 1. Went through them all. And now let's pick week 2's Thursday night game real quick. As the Buffalo Bills take on the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 48.5. There was some speculation that Josh Allen may not play in this game because I guess I don't think he fractured it, but he did something to his non-throwing hand, but that's not going to be an issue whatsoever. So Josh Allen's good to go. Who do you like in this game, Steven?
I do want to take the under just because it feels like I'm going against the grain, and I feel like taking the over is the obvious thing, but you can't bet the under in this one. So I'm going to take the over. I think they'll absolutely hit that. And with the way that the Bills played, I don't know, them and the Dolphins both kind of in the same boat, where it felt like, they obviously won the game, but it almost felt like the other team lost the game more so than they won the game. But I'm going to have the Bills coming out on top in Miami. So give me the over, and I'll take the Bills to win.
Alrighty. And okay, so you got the upset and you're going sorry, hang on. I'm running in the wrong slot here. Bills in the over. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game, and yeah, you got to the over in this one. Maybe right now on the injury report is Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert. We'll see if they play in this game. Nevertheless, I am going to take the Dolphins to win in this one.
Huh.
I think that it's going to be a high scoring game, and yeah, I think the Dolphins want a little revenge from last year, getting that last game of the season where the Bills leapfrogged the Dolphins to win the division. I think the Dolphins right now, this is a good time to play the Bills before they kind of figure things out defensively and offensively. So I think the Dolphins take advantage of this one and they win. I'll lay the points with the Dolphins, and I'll take the over.
One thing we didn't even mention with the Bills and Cardinals too is besides Josh Allen. I mean, did you mention it? You might have. You kind of just like really went quick. But did we mention Keon Coleman?
No.
And how good he looked as a rookie. And I'm just gonna say this: I am so happy that we have a wide receiver with some personality who's actually good. Like Keon Coleman's hilarious, but if he turns into a George Pickens like player where, he makes some really nifty catches, but doesn't really block, isn't that great of a receiver. Yeah. Keon Coleman looks to be that dude.
All right.
I'm so grateful for that. Yes. We
Do you
need
think there's
that.
a lot of wide receivers that have personality that aren't good?
Nah, Jamar Chase has some. Justin Jefferson does too. But Keon Coleman's just different.
Oh, yeah. Well, he and Matt Collins are different.
I think I'm more just saying I want him to get as many media appearances as possible. And if he stinks, that just wouldn't work.
Yeah, but you're going to hear him mic'd up, so don't worry. You'll definitely get your fill of Keon Coleman in NFL films.
I need him mic'd up. Need it.
Okay, before we get out of here tonight, we'll be back on Saturday. What are we thinking, Steven? Noon on Saturday?
Sure.
All right, noon it is. We'll be back on Saturday for just your pregame show, man, week 2. Before we get out of here, sad news. James Earl Jones passes away yesterday. And he might be the greatest voice ever. Like, there's great voices in sports. You think of Vince Scully and other broadcasters. There's great voices in, broadcasting, or just voices throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's no more iconic voice than James Earl Jones. From Darth Vader to Mufasa to This Is CNN to The Sandlot to Coming to America. Very well, $2 million American dollars then. Yeah, I think hands down James Earl Jones is or was the greatest voice of all time.
Yeah, can't really argue against that. I mean, Morgan Freeman, I guess, would be another one who's right up there.
Yeah.
But well, I'm not here to get into an argument about who has the greatest voice of all time. No, just a sad loss. Although, gotta be honest, I'm just speaking my true feelings here. There was a time when, like, I don't know, it was maybe 2 years ago or something, where I thought to myself, yeah, James Earl Jones is still alive, right? And every time I thought about James Earl Jones, it's like, wow, he's still going. Like that's great. So unfortunately, he passed away. But the quote that I go back to, since you are talking The Sandlot here,
baseball
heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
Oh,
and that's how we'll look at James Earl Jones. I think just a legend.
I was thinking of Field of Dreams. Baseball. By the way, I tweeted it out yesterday.
Hercules.
There's an old video on YouTube called the Vader Sessions. If anyone's seen this is hilarious. And it's a good ode to James Earl Jones. Someone took Darth Vader from Star Wars, the footage, and like Princess Leia and all these people talking to him, and they dub it over with James Earl Jones from other movies. So it'll be like, somebody from Star Wars being like, Lord Vader, what should we do? Well, the first thing you do is to get a woman, take off her clothes, you get her in the bathtub. And it's just like, what are you saying? It is hilarious. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. That's all we got for tonight. We'll be back on Saturday for a little Just Your Pregame show, man. Thanks to everybody in the chat tonight for watching and listening. Go through every single game of Week 1 to the Ernies, to AJ Cruz, to Skills, who was in here for a little while. A lot of new faces tonight. Not new faces, but I guess people. Otis Berger's the word. Edison Zoo. I've seen you in here a couple of times. To answer your question, Edison Zoo, Tom Tolber will be back next Tuesday. A week from today, he'll be back on the show. Beham. Who else is in here? Well, Jesse. She had to talk about the biz quick. Thought I saw somebody else in here that was brand new to the chat. And I can't find you. Spaceball Scout. I think that's another. You know what? Sometimes I can't tell if these are new people or just phony accounts of other people that are in the chat. Nevertheless, thank you to all the opiners that were watching and listening tonight. We'll see you guys on Saturday at noon. Steven, say what you always say.
It is just our opinion. Man. That's my James Earl Jones.